Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Equipcast. My name is Jim Jansen, and I am your host. And I am really excited about today's episode. Very fun conversation. Tried some new things with our guest, Kay Doyle, today. Kay is a wife, mother, executive coach, and consultant right here in Omaha, Nebraska. Really an expert in organizational change. Kay and I had a really fun conversation talking about organizational change, the big stuff, but just ordinary change of life. That many of us, whether we want it or not, find ourselves as change leaders. We talk about some of the principles and very practical ideas about how to do change well. We do some role play at the end where I pretend to be Father James walking through a change initiative and a youth minister. And I think you're going to appreciate this conversation. Take a listen.
Welcome to the Equipcast for the Archdiocese of Omaha. Designed to help leaders to transform their cultures, to embody the pastoral vision, to be one church, encountering Jesus, equipping disciples, and living mercy.
Kay Doyle, welcome to the Equipcast. Thank you for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. I am too. I look forward to all of our conversations, but Kay, we've known each other for maybe about a year now. We've just had a couple of interactions, which has just been fun. You bring out the nerd in me, which is actually a compliment, because I love what you do. And I feel like I am an amateur at what you are a professional at. So I love talking with you and learning from you. First, just to start, tell us a little bit about your journey with the Lord.
So I grew up in a Christian home and never remember a time when I questioned my faith. That said, my faith journey really has been marked by periods of highs and lows, times when I just earnestly had a desire and a longing for growth, and then very long periods of time where I let the busyness of life fill my mind and my heart as well. And actually right now I'm reading C.S. Lewis's Screwtape Letters.
Yeah.
And
great
I would
book.
imagine Wormwood being quite pleased with themselves during those times when I just left Jesus standing outside my closed heart because I was too busy navigating the real life.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was actually this work that really brought me really interested in growing my spiritual walk with God. So in 2019, I was finishing up my master's and I was doing some organizational development work at my parish. And as part of that work, I was conducting stakeholder interviews, and during which 3 different people suggested that I read Divine Renovation by Father James Mallon.
Nice.
I didn't do that right away. But what I did do is I went through Alpha that was being offered in the spring, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I read Divine Renovation. And then I went on my first silent retreat at Cloisters on the Platte. And that was in February of 2020.
Fantastic.
And that experience just led to more reading, more learning, and really a lot of personal growth. And, so today, I continue to work on personal change for me and to converse with Jesus regularly. And honestly, I feel his presence more and more. And I also feel like other parts of my life have changed as well.
Oh, Kay, that's so beautiful. Part of what I love about that is, I don't know how uncommon it is, but I am struck that your work drew you closer to the Lord, which is not necessarily a common experience. So I appreciate that. Tell people about, what's your day job?
I am a consultant. I am the director of system change at a small consulting firm in Omaha. And our clients are predominantly nonprofits and foundations. But with system change work, we are trying to change big systems like the child welfare system or the criminal justice system.
So like weekend projects, right? Just a couple days.
Long, multi-year, very complex and messy initiatives, but they're wonderful and they bring together many different kinds of stakeholders that are all interested in improving the outcomes in this work. I also do change management consulting, and I am also an executive coach. And so I do that type of work as well.
And a wife and mother and proud member of St. Pat's in Elkhorn.
Yes.
Okay. So I love the change management science. And I say that not in any way to be pejorative, but I think it's a new science. It's developed over the last few decades compared to like mathematics, right, which has been around for a little while. Kay, does the science of change management, these practices, does it actually make a difference in how change initiatives turn out?
Absolutely. As you know, people and organizations and systems have always been impacted by change. The difference, though, is the speed in which change can occur these days because of technology and globalization, which is what I believe really fostered change management as a discipline.
Sure.
We also have a better understanding and recognize the alternative, which is maintaining the status quo, can lead to extinction. It makes me think about Kodak, the camera company, for example.
Yeah.
They were the ones to develop the first digital camera, and that was done in 1975. But they decided not to commercialize that product because they were afraid it would threaten their thriving film business, which had dominated pretty much most of the 20th century.
Oh, yeah.
And as you know, we know that how that story ends. In 1990s, they were struggling. Film was in decline. They were late to adopt digital photography. And I believe they filed for bankruptcy in 2012.
Yeah.
And just for some context, the first iPhone that had a camera was the 3G that came out in 2009. And so change is all around us. And if we lose sight of what's happening in the external environment, it could lead to extinction in some cases.
Well, and I would add, oftentimes when we think about change, we think about the pace of change as it happens with technology. But I would add to that the rate at which vocabulary changes. Think about like understanding our teenagers, the rate at which culture and cultural taste, like the rate at which those things change. It's not just, oh gosh, if I'm a business leader, I better make sure I pay attention to the up and coming technologies. If you are, let's just say a church, paying attention to what is happening in God's people and what is happening in our mission field is essential. And if we're not attentive, we believe the church is going to persist, but not necessarily the church in my neighborhood. Remember years ago, Pope Benedict, talked about that. The church will always be here, but the church in my neighborhood, the church in my country, in my county, may not. Okay, let's talk about, so when people think about change initiatives, you're talking about, you've been working on massive projects, changing the welfare system. Give us a scope here, because there's big and small. What are we talking about when we talk about a change initiative?
Change initiatives really can happen at every level. We talked about, individual change. My personal change, my personal desire to grow my spirituality. We think about organizational change a lot. These tend to focus on technology, like a system implementation or a conversion. Those things require procedural and policy and behavioral change. In a parish, a change initiative could be something tangible like a new faith formation program, or it can be very intangible, like changing the parish culture. Regardless the individual organization or system, what links them all together is that change initiatives need to be backed by solid rationale that connects strategy to mission. In other words, change needs to be imperative to the organization's existence.
Say more about that, because as you say that, that change needs to have a good reason, right? Solid rationale, and the plan for change, the strategy has to be connected. It has to be kind of like essential. That kind of sounds like common sense. Talk a little bit about what are some of the basic principles or approaches that people should keep in mind as they initiate some sort of project that's going to involve change?
Sure. So we talked about the importance of being able to articulate the why we need to change. But I think we also need to consider, why now? Why do we need to change now? Conversely, what would happen if we don't change, if we don't do anything? It's important when you're leading change to be able to establish a sense of urgency, which appeals to the emotional sides of our brain and get us moving. I think about St. Paul and some of the messages that he had in the Bible. There's always that sense of urgency, right? That is like the number one thing to get people moving, to appeal to their emotional side.
Yeah, love that because I'm reminded all of us know the dangers and downsides of letting our emotions take over, but purely we're not purely rational beings. And when we fail to appeal to our emotions, especially when it's for the sake of some future good, man, we do ourselves a disservice. But I feel like as sometimes a practitioner of change or as I don't want to say victim, depends on how the change initiative is going. I feel like oftentimes I'm simply approached as though I were a robot, as though I were purely rational and nobody speaks to my heart. I know this may sound like a silly question, but how do leaders or those who are kind of managing change, how do you speak to a person's heart?
I think with authenticity. I think you have to be really honest. When you're contemplating the question, why change? Why now? Mm-hmm. We need to kind of separate our personal interests. Is there something about this change that I want? Or is there a need for it for the health of the organization, the people around change? Are they personal? Or are they, do they have the mission of the organization in mind? Is that central to the question why and why now?
Right. What's the motive? And can you articulate it in a way that people can clearly connect it to themselves? Oh, right. That's huge.
And another critical step really is painting a clear vision for the future. So people want to know where they're going, right? Uncertainty makes us uncomfortable. And so leverage communication early and often to minimize that ambiguity that comes with change. A simple way to kind of remember the things that we need to do when we're thinking about change are the 4 Ps, which are purpose, which really address, the why and the why now.
Okay.
Picture, painting that clear vision for the future. There's planning. And of course, there's part, which is giving people a part to play in this plan of change.
I love that. I've heard that before. What I love about it is, of course, oh gosh, it makes so much sense, right? Purpose, picture, plan, part. But you actually, when you have eyes to see it, you can start to see it all over in, right, spiritual leaders. I think about Moses, right? He's he's clearly painting a picture. We're going to a land flowing with milk and honey.
Yes.
Right. Which is very different than we're in Egypt and, we're barely, sustaining ourselves here. Or even better, we're in the middle of the desert. Hey, people, stick with it. A land flowing with milk and honey. And that one element, right? That picture, it was huge to helping people continue to persevere on the journey when it got really hard.
Yes. Oh, I love that story.
That's great. Okay. I'm thinking here, again, I love this stuff and I try and be a little self-reflective, right, about my own nerdiness. I think some of our listeners are thinking okay, we tried change management. We had this project. It was awful. I'm never going to try and change anything again. What are some of the typical pitfalls? When things go bad, what was typically missing?
Okay, I'm going to give you a tip. So change would be easy if it didn't involve people.
Amen.
So change is situational. Change is the thing that's going to be different. It could be new technology. It could be a new priest. It could be a new program. Transitions, however, are psychological. And transitions are the 3-phase process that people experience as they internalize and process and come to terms with the new situation created by the change. Oftentimes, change initiatives and change leaders, we focus on the tasks at hand and we just expect people to go along with it.
Yeah.
Change management theory acknowledges that people need time to let go of their old ways and identify new ones. So transitions really begin with the end, this letting go of the old way, and it ends with the new beginning, the one with purpose that you've painted a picture for, that you've constructed a plan, and that you will engage people to play a part in the plan.
Gosh, that makes, as you talk about this, I'm thinking of this is so Catholic, right? We're, the way that just our, I think the Catholic genius, right? For ritualizing endings. whether it be,
yes,
and ceremonializing beginnings.
Yes, absolutely. So, I spent a long time in corporate communications, and I recall painting a picture of a combined organization, say after a merger, with unparalleled capabilities to sell the benefits of the merger. And so this may be appropriate messaging when your audience is committed to the change, but when we anticipate resistance, our message needs to focus on why the change is needed and to sell the business case for change, because people need to understand the why.
Wait, let's break that down. You're saying if you're in a position where everybody's like, yes, let's do this, well, then focusing on the benefits is fine. But if you're
they're ready to be inspired.
Right. But if your intuition or the presence of pitchforks and torches seems to indicate some sort of resistance, then you need to go back to the why. Why do we need to do this?
Yes, absolutely. You need to sell the business case for change.
Oh.
Maybe you need to talk about what life will be like if we don't change.
Oh my gosh. I mean, this is not an abstract reality, for most of the Catholic Church in the Western world. We're facing dramatic changes to our institutions for several reasons, right? Partially because of the global, or at least Western phenomenon of people disengaging from the faith. So there are less and less individuals who are adhering and participating the way they once did. But then for the far less, the more innocuous reason, and this is very impactful for Nebraska, there's demographic and population shifts where people who used to live 20 miles apart in little country towns and parishes, now, thank you, interstate system and, automobiles, mechanized farming, et cetera, we live much further apart. Children go off to school, they go to Lincoln or Omaha for college, and they don't come back. And so the population shifts alone help create scenarios where there's really, dramatic change to our institutions. Again, parishes and schools, and none of this is new, but for us to be able to navigate this well, I think you're giving me hope that this is a home game for us as Catholics, where we can talk about what is the purpose, what is the mission, what are the underlying factors here. And we can hopefully, right, because of our ability to be very human about ending things well and beginning things well, hopefully we as Catholics could do change really well. Because like it or not, it's kind of come upon us. I want to have a little fun here. I've never done this on the podcast before, but we talked about it. We're up for this. We're going to do a little role play where we're going to talk about just a little bit, some of the principles you talked about, some of the practices, just some of the real basic stuff. And feel free to throw in another tool into the toolkit there. But I'm going to be Jim, the youth ministry coordinator. All right. I'm a youth ministry coordinator at a parish, and I have a change initiative project. And so I'm just going to start off by telling you a little bit about what I want to do. And we'll let you be in that kind of coach consultant space, kind of walking me through how I can do this change well.
Sounds great.
Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Okay, I'm so glad we had a chance to talk today. So I'm really I am totally convinced that I have got to shift our curriculum and really the whole style of the way we do our youth ministry at St. Peter's. I'm just, my own experience in college, I saw how powerful small groups can be. And I know these days, even the videos, everybody thinks oh, we'll just show a cool video. All the kids, all they do is watch cool videos all the time. And that doesn't make church any different. I want our youth ministry to be different because I want people to come in contact with a community that loves them and a caring adult who's just a little bit wiser, right, than our 14-year-olds who can help mentor them into faith and then maturity as a disciple. But I'm the only one who sees this. I know I'm going to need Father Pat to be on board with this. I'm going to need other people to help me. I've got friends that are doing youth ministry other places around the country, and they've got a ton of adults, and I've got a couple of good people, but I want to do this. I know the Lord wants me to do it, but I don't know how to get started.
So Jim, tell me what is truly at the heart of this change? What is it that you're trying to change?
Oh gosh, that's a good question.
Go deeper than the curriculum. And
I want the kids to come out different. I get maybe 3 or 4 years, and I have a real good relationship with our DRE, the lady who runs religious education. So I get some time even before that, but I really only get a short period of time with them. And I know my own journey in college and like what they're going to face faith-wise. And like, I want to know that the kids from our parish don't just know Jesus and are going to stick with him through college and beyond, but I actually want them to take somebody with them. I want them to be the type of friend who makes a difference in another friend's life, not just by their kindness, but by actually introducing their friends who are just as desperate, or well, more so than they are, because sometimes they don't have as good of families. I want our kids to not just be Catholic when they graduate from college, but I want them to like bring some other people along.
I love that vision. What makes you feel that isn't something they are experiencing today?
Well, because I'm friends with them when they leave. I mean, I've only been here for 2 years, so I'm still kind of the new guy, but there's not very many involved. The kids that come, God love them. They come because they're good kids, but nobody's coming yet because a friend invited them. And we've had a couple that have come because of friends, but like the kids don't have those habits yet. Sadly, again, I've only had like 2 years, but the ones that have graduated, if you will, from our program, sometimes like when I go to their graduation parties and I have the cake and I talk with them and their parents are like, okay, are you going to get involved in find a church when you get to college? And I try to like give them all the stuff they need. I don't feel confident that they're going to do it. And I just know how hard it is. I know it's not working now because I know the kids.
What do you imagine might happen if you don't make a change?
To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if the parish, I wouldn't be surprised if youth ministry disappears altogether. Because
that's sad.
Well, I mean, it's just one of the, money is tight and I get it. And there's good things happening, but there isn't a lot of momentum yet. We're kind of a unique parish in that we have both starter homes and kind of second level family homes. And a lot of I don't, before my time, but people who have gone to our parish will come back and settle in this area. But so many of them, I'll like see them at the parish festival. They'll come back and they'll settle in this area, but they don't come to church here. I mean, this is in some ways, this is the future of our church, like literally, because the kids in our youth group will be adult parishioners in our parish. Not all of them, but many of them will be 10 years from now.
That makes me very sad to hear you say that.
Yeah, but there's hope there too. I mean, we're really blessed in that the kids we serve, we actually will get to see them come back and be a blessing, to our parish. If you invest in young people, it's with hope that they'll be a blessing to someone else. We're just really unique in the way our real estate market works, is they may actually come back and be a blessing to us.
Okay, well, let's do something fun to lighten our hearts.
Okay.
I want you to tell me, Jim, if you've made this change and all of the things that you were hoping for have come true, I want you to describe to me what this new environment is like. What is the parish community like? What is the greater community like?
Oh, okay, so
what are people saying and thinking and doing as a result of this change that was made 5 years ago?
Well, so for one thing, there's just young people at Mass. And not just watching, but like their readers and their greeters and their singers, and they're sharing like real testimony of like their life and their so like their joy, or they're not just like present, but they're real participants. I dream of like our Wednesday night large group gathering, where it's like this big reunion of everybody who's had common experiences of faith on our kind of conversion retreat. And where people who have small groups other times during the week are like, they're all coming back together. I dream of having like a team of people, like kids, who are constantly bringing new people, their friends in. And like those, who are like kind of like our extroverts and our social butterflies, like having eyes for the new people and coming to them right away and welcoming them and helping them feel like they're a part of it. I mean, Wednesday night is fun because I love the kids, but sometimes I'm like, okay, I really belong here. And I just don't quite even feel, and I'm the youth minister, for crying out loud. Sometimes like I don't even totally feel welcome because everybody's still a little cliquey. I just imagine a time when like Wednesday night is huge and there's always new people. And I'm not the only one who's welcoming new people. I'm not the only one who's inviting new people. The kids are inviting new people, and they have eyes to notice the new people and to make them feel like they're a part of it.
Jim, that sounds so awesome. I imagine myself being a parishioner and feeling the energy from the young people in our community, and I'm seeing them engaged. And it's making me feel like, well, I need to do something too. I mean, look at these, look at them. Yeah. They are full of joy and evangelizing and bringing their friends. I want some part of that.
Yeah. I saw that, I was always inspired by St. Paul's, when he's like telling Timothy, it's like, don't let anyone judge you for your youth. Let your youth and your faith be an example and an inspiration for all. And so I want that. I want that for our faith community. And honestly, like I want to take over like the public school that's in our parish boundaries. I mean, not like take over, not like a hostile thing, but I mean, like I want our kids to be going to the public school. I mean, I love our Catholic school too, but I want them to be going to our public school and like changing the culture on their sports teams and in their clubs and in that whole school. Like I want them to be little missionary apostles.
I love that. Okay. So what we talked about, Jim, is we talked about the rationale for change, the need for change. We've talked about what would happen, this dying of the vine a little bit, of the church. And then we talked about what it could be like and just this beautiful vision of a completely different environment. So you asked the question, so how do I get there? I have so many ideas and I'm not quite sure where to start. So with a change initiative, it is so important that we involve the people around us. Take a human-centered approach and explore this change with some of the youth. What are they thinking and saying and doing and feeling about the current format?
Oh, that's awesome.
Listen to what they have to say. And so what you're doing is you're inviting them to be part of this change process early on. You may want to consider testing out a new format and getting their feedback even before you have discussions with other people. Start with them. This is their program. What would inspire and excite them? What resonates with them?
That's hugely helpful because I mean, of course I'm doing it for them, but I have to be honest, I didn't even think about asking them. I was kind of thinking about like, how am I going to convince Father Pat that I'm not crazy? but
we'll
like,
get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah. But when he sees their enthusiasm, like that's like, they're so, and I think they will like it, thinking they'll like it, and them actually like, no, we want it. We want to do this. That's different. Then it's not just my crazy idea.
Oh yes. We want to engage their feedback. And in that same way, I heard you mention that, it may take a lot of adult help to get going.
Right.
And so talk to adults who might, the ones that might be the first one to help.
Yeah. What
insights do they have about the change? And in this same way, I encourage you to have an open dialogue with the pastor.
Yeah.
So all of these conversations are happening early on. The change hasn't happened yet. But what we're doing is we're in a period of exploration and learning. So people are getting used to the idea of change, and you're soliciting their feedback and learning what they have to say so that hopefully by the time we're actually ready to make a change, you've got a coalition of supporters that are fully on board because they helped you co-create and design this new change for the community.
Oh, Kate, that is so helpful. Thank you. Okay. That was great. I was actually like having fun there, getting in character. So, okay. Now we want to do one more. I loved how you were like really trying to draw out like, okay, why do you want to do this? What happens if you don't? Because the ability for, in this case, right, Jim, the youth minister, to be able to articulate what was in my heart and in my mind, I needed to be able to do that if I was going to bring these kids and parents and pastor on board, that was something that was in the heart, but wasn't articulate yet. And I had to be able to make it articulate. So I loved how you just kind of just pulled it out.
As a change leader, we want to help people practice.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was like practicing my pitch to the kids. So that was so awesome. Okay, so now we're going to change here, a little harder. Now I'm going to be Father James, right? Father James. I'm the pastor. And I have to consolidate my parish offices and staff. We're at 3 different locations with 3 part-time staff. It's certainly not good financial stewardship, parish funds, but it's also not effective. It's not working, and it's kind of killing me as the pastor. But I am more than a little bit anticipating the resistance from the staff and even from the parishioners. I'm afraid that, I'm really afraid that there's going to be a lot of resistance here. And I feel trapped because I feel like I have to make these changes, but I don't know how to do it without getting myself tarred and feathered. Help.
So Father James, I have to ask you, and this is really important, what might happen if you don't make this change?
Oh gosh, I don't want to say this out loud, but I have to be honest. It's overdramatic to say it might kill me, but it certainly is sucking the joy out of my priesthood. And to be honest, I think there are days, this is the part I don't want to say out loud, I think my priesthood is in jeopardy. Like I think my vocation is in jeopardy because of just the administrative stress. Like none of it works, and it's just a headache, and it's always a fight. It's not why I became a priest, and I know it's just part of the job, and I'm happy to do it, but it's kind of killing me. And that stress, I'm doing my best to pray through it, but that stress is really negatively affecting my vocation.
What is happening in the community?
Well, I was going to say, I don't think anybody sees it because I feel all alone in it sometimes, but that's actually not true. From another perspective, I think everybody sees it. God bless Janice, but Janice has been there forever. Whenever she refers to me, it's as this pastor because she's seen, 10 before and plans on seeing 10 afterwards. Everybody knows that Janice is a wonderful woman, but not great at her job. They actually come to me. So they don't come to Janice for things they need to come to Janice for. They come to me. And then I'm supposed to schedule things. And then I have to talk to Janice and tell her. And I think it's like, so at some level, I feel very alone, like nobody sees it and nobody understands. And everybody's going to judge me and think I'm all temperamental or particular to try and consolidate these offices. But actually, I think everybody knows because they always go around her and come to me.
We all affect each other. And so that's really the challenge, is articulating the why through your experience, but also the impact that it has on the parish community and all of the things that are happening within the church as a result of all of this stress. And it sounds like some inefficiencies.
Yeah. Well, and as you're saying that, right, light bulbs are going off because people are always complaining about the communication. And I didn't know what this was happening, and I didn't know this and that. And, there was a merger with the parishes a couple of years ago, but we never really consolidated the offices. And so people are always feeling out of the loop. When they feel out of the loop, then it very quickly escalates to hard feelings and assuming bad motives. And not that never happens, but usually it's just incompetence. It's nobody's mean. It's just that we can't seem to get 3 different bulletins synchronized and get the websites working together. And just So the effects are all the way through. Right. And people
starts with you. Yeah. And it is spreading out throughout the community.
And that's one that people see. When they complain about communication, they don't realize it, but they're making the case for me that we need to do something different.
So I want you to imagine then it's 3 years from now and the parish office has been consolidated. All the things, all of the scary and hard things that you thought might need to happen have happened.
So you're saying I'm missing some limbs at this point, or?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, great. Sorry.
No, the parish office is down to 1.
Got it.
And we have an efficient staff, very engaged. Tell me about the parish today.
Oh, gosh.
How do you feel? What's happening within the community? What has changed?
First off, I'm just less stressed because the things that I'm not good at, like managing schedules and reserving facilities and coordinating all the communications and all that. Like there's just someone who does that and they're good at it and they like it. And I get to kind of focus on preaching and being with people and just, showing up at basketball games and people's houses and stuff. I mean, not that I just want to have fun, but I'm just not good at that other stuff, but I know it needs to happen. So I feel like I'm free to do what I can do and to be a pastor to people in need, but all that other stuff is happening. Maybe these communities finally start to feel like one.
What is the parishioner experience like now?
Well, I mean, they have more access to me, but they also they feel like they're in the know. I think the reason the communication bothers people so much, I think they feel like they're on the outside and they want to feel like this is their parish and we really are all one. But when the communication breaks down or, thank you notes from their year-end giving or just all of the stuff that the office does, it ends up sending a message that they're not really a part and they don't matter. And I think that hits their insecurities from the merger a couple of years ago.
Okay. Well, so we've talked about the potential change that you feel in your heart needs to be done. And this is a little bit different than the youth ministry one, where it was really important to gauge the people involved and solicit their feedback and learn from them.
Yeah.
This one might be different. For example, if you're closing offices and there's potential that people may be fewer positions and people may lose their jobs, it's a little bit different. I just we talked a little bit about transitions. In this situation, it's really important to be thinking about people involved in the change and helping them make the change smoothly. So in the book, Managing Transitions, which I highly recommend for change leaders, it is written by William Bridges.
Awesome.
He talks about ways in which we can help people let go. So for example, if a decision was made that 2 of the 3 offices would close, there would be an announcement. And of course, in managing transitions, we start with the end. So what are some of the things that we can do to help people let go and transition through this ending? First thing is give people information and then do it again and then do it again.
Yeah. Information.
Define what is over and what isn't.
Yeah.
Not everything is going to end.
Yeah.
Just some things.
That's huge. Again, right. We're kind of transitioning out of the role play, but I, myself, when I've been in change leading roles and when I see others, again, particularly in a pastoral church context, there's a fear of hurting people, and which is good, right? No, we shouldn't be callous to that and want to, but just simple things like, okay, Janice, you're still a member of this parish and we're still going to be friends. You're not going to be the secretary anymore, but you're still a member. There's these things that will continue and these things that won't continue. And, I'd start to think about in this pastor role, really making the why very, very clear. When you said earlier how when you're anticipating resistance, don't talk so much about the benefits as the why. It's being able to just put a simple cost benefit spreadsheet, 3 different properties and rent and heating and cooling and electricity and all of that. So I could imagine creating, as a change leader in this circumstance, a couple of different clusters of whys. Here's the financial stewardship. Here's Father's time back. Here's the experience of unity, and et cetera. So, and
sharing that information will help people draw the same conclusion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That would be right. That's the ideal as a change leader. When somebody's like, "Hey, Father, what if we combine the offices?" That's great. This has been a fast conversation. It's gone so fast for us. I'm sure there's somebody who's listening who's like, "Oh crap!" They know they're in a role where they're going to need to be leading some change. What's your advice to them, just as they think about beginning, maybe unsure as to whether or not they're willing to begin? What would you say to them?
I would start first with prayer. Invite the Holy Spirit to help you with this work, and then lean on God for wisdom and guidance. Honestly, that is just, you can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
I personally always ask for a humble heart because I think it's important to be good listeners in this process and really hear what others are saying around me. And then try and engage in this stance of learning. So for me, that's humility.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to be learning and hearing as you're gathering information, as you're contemplating change,
Mm-hmm.
rather than being an expert and knowing and being closed off to what others will say about this particular course of action.
Oh, that's really good.
Sometimes we can get in our own way and bring biases to this work.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really, really important to be listening and ask for God's help with that.
Yeah. Remain a learner, to learn and not just, oh, that's great. Hey, speaking of learning, again, you did your master's degree in this, but what are some resources you would recommend? You did a nice name drop of a book there. Remind us of that book, and what are some of your other what would you recommend as resources for those who find themselves as change leaders?
I'm really a book nerd, so I have quite a few favorites. So I mentioned Managing Transitions.
Mm-hmm.
It is written by William and Susan Bridges. And the focus of that book is really helping people transition through change. And it is a tiny book with lots of checklists. So it's really like a field manual. So
that's
I highly recommend that one. Another book is by Chip and Dan Heath. It's called Switch.
Yes, I love that one.
How to change when change is hard. And what I love about this book, there's basically three things that we're keeping in mind in Switch. There's our rational side, there's our emotional side, and then there is the environment. So we can appeal to our brains, we can appeal to our heart, but we can also change the circumstance so that change is easier.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So Switch is a good one.
Yeah, very, very good book. Great stories all the way through. It's just story after story that really illustrate the points they're making.
We also talked a little bit about design thinking methodology without naming it as such. But, for the youth minister who's curious about trying something new, that is design thinking, where you take a human-centered approach and you test something with the audience and you create a prototype or a new version of Wednesday, and you test it out. And then you just ask for feedback. I mean, it's super simple. So there's a fun book that talks about design thinking methodology called Sprint, how to solve big problems and test new ideas in just 5 days. And you really can. And this book is by Jake Knapp. It's a super fun read. It's a great way to experiment and test, particularly as it relates to maybe programming or just new innovative things in parish.
Oh, that's awesome. Kay, I know you are a pro at this, right? You're a professional consultant, changing lots of big things. But for those who want to hey, Kay, I have something I want to talk to you about. How can people get a hold of you?
I would love to hear from you. I sort of feel like, you were saying God got my attention through my work because I think he figured out after so many years that would be the best way to do it. I just feel so blessed to have the skills and experience that I've been given throughout my life. And I really do want to serve and give back in this way. And so I would love to hear from you. So my email address is kdoyle, KAYDOYLE 1129 @gmail.com.
Again, that's Doyle, KAYDOYLE 1129, which I believe are the last 4 digits of your social security number. No, just kidding. That's it. So at Gmail. So we'll put that and these book recommendations in the show notes. Kay, thank you. Thanks for being with us. This is a really fun, our time just flew.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, everybody. If you appreciated this episode and you know someone who is reluctantly become a change leader, share this episode with them, that this could be an encouragement and a blessing for them, maybe a little bit of hope that it doesn't have to be as hard as it feels right now. All right. Thanks, everybody.